the electrical load, pushing the limits of the power strip and the circuit itself.
For sure. And that other YouTube creator, the over-engineer, actually showed examples of power bars that melted because of this very issue, plugging too many things in. It's a stark visual of what can happen.
And it reinforces your point about all those individual devices adding up. It's not just one high-power item. Multiple smaller ones can collectively overload a system just as easily.
What's interesting is that many power strips do have built-in overload protection, like circuit breakers. But as those videos, and we suspect that TMJ4 piece you heard about earlier point out, these aren't always foolproof, especially when you're connecting multiple strips.
Exactly.
Oh, go for it.
Especially for remote video inspection, RVI, of compliance with the fire standards for safety audit.
Absolutely, and that's a crucial area where these electrical safety standards really matter. Remote video inspections for fire safety audits rely heavily on all that tech, the cameras, the lights, the recording devices, all drawing power.
Exactly, and as you're pointing out, these inspections are often specifically looking for things like overloaded circuits and potential fire hazards. So back to our listener.
Yes, to narrate the audit, use Pixiebot, Picceybot AI to narrate the risk of fire.
That's a really interesting thought. It brings up the idea of using technology to make these audits more accessible, doesn't it?
What's fascinating here is the potential for AI-powered tools, like this Pixiebot you mentioned, to bridge language barriers in crucial areas like safety inspections.
Okay, let's unpack this because we actually have some information about Pixiebot in our sources today. It's described as having advanced language selection.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, imagine a remote video inspection where the person conducting the audit and the person on site speak different languages.
Exactly. And Pixiebot is mentioned as being able to choose from 55 languages for description, so potentially it could provide real-time narration or translation of what's being seen.
This raises an important question about how such a tool could be integrated into a remote fire safety audit to ensure clear communication and understanding of standards.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
It helps the auditor, especially foreign auditor, to narrate the audit in near real time and file reports, much like seeing AI.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. Having that narration capability. Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Much like seeing AI and Be My Eyes, adding real human experts in real time to narration and to the live broadcast.
That's a fantastic analogy. You're spot on. It's that layer of accessibility and real-time assistance that makes these technologies so powerful.
Okay, let's unpack this further because you've highlighted a key trend. Just like Seeing AI and Be My Eyes connect visually impaired users with information, Pixiebot aims to do that across language barriers for auditory information.
What's fascinating here is the move towards integrating both AI and human expertise for enhanced accessibility in various fields, whether it's for someone with a visual impairment or someone navigating a language difference during a critical process like an audit.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of remote video inspections, imagine a scenario where an auditor in one country is reviewing a site in another. Tools like Pixiebot, potentially even integrated with human experts, as you mentioned with Be My Eyes, could provide a much clearer and more reliable understanding of the situation.
This really underscores the value of combining different technological approaches to create more inclusive and effective solutions. It's oh yeah, let's hear it.
And all the auditor needs is a cell phone with Pixiebot installed, click record video, and then click share, and share it with a remote assistant that will file it in a report with a narration.
You've perfectly summarized the potential simplicity and efficiency of such a system. It really lowers the barrier to entry for conducting thorough remote audits.
Absolutely. It streamlines the whole process, making it easier to collect visual data and get it analyzed and documented quickly, regardless of location or language.
This ties in beautifully with the idea of accessibility we were just discussing, not just in terms of language, but also in the practical steps needed to perform an audit.
Right. It removes the need for specialized equipment in many cases. A simple smartphone becomes a powerful tool for most compliance checks.
And having that narration automatically tied to the report is a huge time saver and reduces the potential for errors in manual documentation.
Exactly. So with tools like Pixiebot making remote audits more accessible and efficient, Let's think about how the data from fire incidents, tracked by NFIRs,
can inform the best way to use this technology to ensure both a thorough audit and the safety of the process itself, especially with this ease of use you highlighted.
Well, the NFIS data helps us understand common factors in fires. This knowledge can guide auditors using these mobile tools to be extra vigilant about potential hazards.
For instance, knowing that overloaded power strips are a frequent cause, an auditor might specifically use their phone camera to zoom in on power setups during an inspection.
And then,
And assess the risk of fire across different time zones.
Absolutely, that's a fundamental part of any safety audit, especially fire safety.
Okay, let's unpack this, because assessing fire risk is exactly what fire safety standards and the NFIS data are all about.
If we connect this to our discussion about remote video inspections using tools like PickyBot, being able to assess fire risk remotely becomes crucial.
Exactly. The visual and auditory information gathered through a smartphone, potentially narrated in multiple languages, can help identify potential fire hazards.
And as you pointed out, the ease of use makes it more likely these risks can be identified and documented efficiently.
So your point really reinforces how these mobile accessibility tools can directly contribute to fire risk assessment during audits.
What's fascinating here is how the data from NFIRS can inform what specific risks auditors should be looking for through these remote tools.
For example, knowing common ignition sources or hazardous conditions from past fire incidents can guide the auditor's focus.
And if an incident were to occur during a remote audit, the detailed report generated with the narration would provide valuable data for NFLS, specifically on the assessed risks.
So your point really brings home how mobile accessibility tools like PickyBot can be a game changer for safety audits and data collection, including crucial fire risk assessment.
It connects directly to our earlier discussion about the importance of clear communication and understanding when it comes to preventing disasters, in this case, fire hazards, especially across different languages and in the process of risk assessment.
Absolutely. Now,
In addition, building code compliance and prevention of a tower from collapsing, like in the Miami Beach tower collapse case.
That's a really important addition to the conversation. Building code compliance is absolutely fundamental to preventing disasters like that tragic tower collapse.
okay, let's unpack this. Because building codes are the baseline for safety and are designed to prevent exactly those kinds of structural failures.
If we connect this to fire risk assessment and remote inspections, building code compliance often includes specific fire safety requirements.
Exactly. Things like fire-resistant materials, proper ventilation, and the integrity of the building structure itself all contribute to fire safety and overall stability.
And this raises an important question. How can remote video inspections, potentially with AI assistants like PickyBot, contribute to assessing building code compliance in addition to fire risk?
Well, visual documentation of structural elements, potentially narrated with language support, could help identify visible code violations.
For instance, the type of construction like wood truss construction mentioned in the NFIRS guide as a fire suppression factor relates directly to building codes.
Right, and while a remote inspection might not replace an in-person structural engineer, it could flag potential areas of concern for further investigation regarding code adherence.
And the detailed reports generated, potentially including narrated observations about the building's condition, could serve as an initial assessment of code compliance.
So your point really emphasizes that fire risk assessment is intertwined with overall building safety and code compliance.
Yep, go on.
Especially when a building is about to collapse and the condo commando fights over funding until the building collapses and kills a lot of people and causes billions of dollars in costs.
You've raised a really tragic and critical point. The importance of adhering to building codes and not delaying necessary maintenance can have devastating consequences, as we saw in that terrible collapse.
What's so concerning in those situations is when warnings are ignored or when disputes over responsibility hinder essential repairs. It really underscores how crucial proactive safety measures are.
Okay, let's unpack this further, because it highlights the direct link between building code compliance, structural integrity, and ultimately safety.
Go for it.
Another problem is the engineering jargon that is full of engineering reports.
That's a really important point. Technical language can definitely be a barrier to understanding complex issues.
Absolutely. It's crucial that information, especially about safety and compliance, is accessible to everyone, not just engineers.
Okay, let's unpack this, because you're right. When we're talking about building codes and preventing disasters, clear communication is key.
If we connect this back to our earlier point about PickyBot and language barriers, it's the same idea, making information understandable.
Exactly. And while a remote audit isn't...
Oh, yeah,
Especially when the remote auditor is a foreign engineer that speaks with a very heavy accent, AI can understand it and translate it to the local accent, local American accent that the commando can understand, and in plain language.
That's a really fascinating application of AI. You're highlighting how technology could bridge not just language differences, but also variations in accent and technical terminology.
Okay, let's unpack this, because you've hit on a crucial point about making complex information truly accessible. Imagine a remote audit situation exactly like you described.
What's fascinating here is the potential for real-time AI translation to take that engineer's expertise, regardless of their accent, and deliver it in clear, plain language that everyone on site can understand.
If we connect this back to PixieBot, which we were just talking about, its language selection capabilities could be extended to include accent translation and jargon simplification.
This raises an important question. How could AI tools be developed to not only translate words, but also interpret the nuances of different accents and rephrase technical terms in simpler ways?
Well, the transcript from the Drasser YouTube channel mentioned PixieBot having video recognition and description software. Perhaps future iterations of such tools could incorporate advanced audio processing for accent interpretation.
And linking this back to the...
Oh yeah, go on.
Then submit it to Notebook LM for additional podcast and join function for the experts to join the playback to further correct the hallucination of AI.
That's a really interesting idea. It speaks to the continuous improvement of AI through feedback and iteration.
Okay, let's unpack this, because you're suggesting a really dynamic workflow where AI analysis is reviewed and refined.
What's fascinating here is the potential for a human-in-the-loop system to correct any